Lenses come in all shapes and sizes with different focal lengths and different apertures. However, as users tend to lean towards smaller and smaller kits, I find we still don't have enough high quality compact prime lenses. Thankfully, we do have the 40mm f2.5G and it's a pretty great lens, so let's dive into it. First, let's quickly talk about the build and then move on to the image quality. The build of this lens is probably my favorite part about it. It's nice and compact and noticeably smaller than my Tamron 20-40 f2.8. If you're interested, I've got a whole review on that linked below. Despite its smaller size, the lens feels really solid, which is awesome. It doesn't feel overly plasticky and the weight feels really nice in the hand, sturdy and durable. It also comes with just about every button and dial I'd want on a lens, including an AF/MS switch, an aperture ring that you can declick, a customizable button, and of course a focus ring. While I love having all these buttons and dials, the compact body does make accessing some of these switches and dials a bit challenging, and the focus ring feels a little narrow. That being said, I'd rather feel slightly cramped than lose all these features entirely, so it's a worthy compromise in my opinion. The lens also had a pretty unusual looking lens hood. It added a lot of length to the lens and made the lens feel a bit bigger than I like. I ended up not using it often, I didn't actually use it at all, and I didn't find that I needed it to stop flares, so overall, I just wouldn't use the lens hood. It's not worth it in my opinion. Before moving on to image quality, I did want to mention that this lens uses a 49mm filter thread that's slightly recessed into the lens body. I paired my Moment Cinebloom 10% filter with this lens for some shots and really enjoyed the result. This is the same lens filter I use on all my images I take with my X100V. It's a really nice filter and it really paired well with this 40mm f2.5G. Speaking of image quality, let's talk about the images this lens produces. The images you get from this 40mm f2.5G are really good. The lens definitely feels like it punches above its current price of $600 at the time of filming it. It felt sharp, the autofocus was fast and smooth, and it rendered images really nicely. The issue I had with this lens weren't related to the image quality, because it's great, but rather my skill level with the 40mm focal length. It's not a focal length I use often, and I found myself struggling to get comfortable with it initially. Normally, I shoot at 35mm for street photography and everyday use, and I've never been a fan of 50mm. It feels too tight, but somehow not tight enough. To me, 40mm felt similarly awkward, too wide, but also not wide enough. Does that make any sense? Anyway, it took me about 2 weeks of regular use to start understanding how to shoot 40mm better. If you step back, you can achieve similar results to a 35mm, though with a bit more compression. If you're closer to your subject, 40mm can feel a bit challenging. At 35mm, I can easily capture more of the scene, where 40mm starts to feel more like I'm isolating a single subject. In a way, I found my 40mm shots resembling images I might take with the 85mm lens when getting close, though it does retain a lot more context than a 50mm or an 85mm lens normally would. While it felt confusing at first, this ended up being exactly what I enjoyed most about shooting at 40mm, and I suspect it's why many others have started using this lens. Being able to show the whole scene by stepping back, yet achieving isolated subjects by moving closer, makes this focal length and this lens incredibly versatile. Unlike 50mm, I never felt limited by how wide I could shoot, yet I could still achieve solid subject isolation when needed, making it a far more enjoyable experience than a traditional Nifty 50, at least in my experience. So, who should buy this 40mm f2.5? Honestly, I think this lens is an easy choice for anyone looking for a compact, do-it-all prime lens, making it perfect for travel or everyday photography. It's lightweight, capable of capturing wide scenes, yet still tight enough with enough background separation for environmental portraits, perfect for those scenarios. However, this lens won't be my go-to for street photography. While it can produce great street shots, I personally prefer something wider like a 35mm or 28mm. This lets me capture fuller scenes more easily than I could with the 40mm, and I don't need as much of the subject isolation offered by the 40mm for street photography. Now let's talk about video with this lens real quick. I didn't shoot a ton of video with this lens, but when I did, I was happy. The autofocus felt fast, it felt snappy, it looked good, the images it produced were great. I had no issues with this lens from an image quality perspective. However, I just didn't enjoy shooting with a 40mm prime for video. I'd much prefer something like my Tamron 20-40 f2.8. While it is a bit larger and it doesn't go down to f2.5, I think those are worth it sacrifices for the versatility you get with the 20-40 and the little more range you get from a zoom over a prime. This is my personal preference for video. I think a lot of people could shoot video with this lens, but if I was doing a talking head setup, I'd also probably go for a 35mm prime or a 50mm prime that's less compact over this 40mm. You don't need a compact lens like this for a lot of video shoots because you already got a lot of big equipment anyway. It's not going to make that big of a difference to have a slightly larger lens. So this wasn't a video lens for me. I mainly use this lens for photography. Overall, I think the 40mm f2.5G is a really solid lens, and I'd have no hesitation picking one up, especially if you find it used. I'd love for Sony to continue making more lenses like this. A compact 28 and 35 with this similar build quality and features would be amazing, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. For now, go ahead and shoot some photos. Thanks for watching.